think everyone in the world right now is feeling like their prices are high.
For those who are new here, I'm Jillian, and this is my husband, Jeremy. We travel full-time and just finished a 5-week stay in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, where we truly live like locals deep in a working-class neighborhood, not the touristy areas, for most of our trip. In this video, we share how much we spent for 5 weeks living in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, with lessons learned and helpful tips sprinkled in along the way. Let's get started.
Hey friends!
Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. So nice to be here on this lovely Sunday.
Heck yeah, happy Sunday guys.
Yep.
Today we talk all about Mexico cost of living. We were in Puerto Vallarta for 5 weeks and have a really good sense how much things cost. There's this perception about Mexico being so cheap, and that is true, but there's some caveats to that.
It is, and it isn't. It just depends on what you're talking about.
You know, it's not the Mexico cheap that we're used to from 10 years ago, we can tell you that much.
Definitely not.
Yeah, so we're gonna dive into that and show you what living like locals for 5 weeks looks like. But first, what does it mean to live like locals, just so everybody's on the same page with us?
Well, after talking to many Mexicans that live there, we find that some of the locals are only making $400 in an entire month.
I know.
We're not living like locals like that. Our American standard local is what we mean.
Yeah, that's a good point. Living like locals, like we're not on vacation, not spending a bunch of money on excursions, not staying in a super popular area, nothing like that, not renting a car, really just relying on public transportation or taxis or Ubers in order to get around.
Right.
Buying most of our groceries, that type of thing.
Right.
Although would love you to stick around for the entire video.
Which you should.
Yeah, you should. If you're in a rush, we've put here on the screen the time marker so you can skip to the end and find out the bottom line costs. But then come back later and watch the whole thing.
Yeah, or don't leave yet.
I've broken down our spending into 8 categories, which I've listed here on the screen. We're gonna start with accommodations since that's usually always the most expensive portion of your budget. Our 5-week total was just over $2,100, and that included 3 separate items. 1 Airbnb, that was the majority of our stay, so let's just call it a month. The second thing was an overnight hotel in San Pancho where we took a little excursion to compare Sayulita versus San Pancho. Check that video out if you haven't already.
Yeah, we'll leave a link right up here.
Yeah, and then the last one was an all-inclusive little mini break that we took for 4 nights at Barcelo Resort at the last part of our stay. And we kind of went back and forth on whether or not to include that because, as we mentioned, we wanted to live like locals. And so we included it in the costs to give you a sense of what that price was if you're interested in going to an all-inclusive, but we'll touch on later whether or not we think is worth it. Our Airbnb, it checked all the boxes when we were looking. $1,200 for 35 nights or something like that. A newer building, gated community, it had a pool. In hindsight, after staying there, it was gross. We probably, as we learned, could have paid half for that same Airbnb if we booked early. So that's a really important lesson learned for us.
Also, you have to pay attention to the reviews because we looked at these reviews and they really fooled us. And
I think they were fake.
I think they were fake. I think whoever had that Airbnb, they had friends, and because everything that their reviews said was complete opposite of what it actually was. So be careful on those Airbnbs.
The biggest thing was the talking about how quiet the place was, and it couldn't have been further from the truth. I digress. I'll stop talking about the Airbnb. It's lesson learned. Book early if you can. It's not always an option, but if you can, you're always gonna get a better deal the further out that you can book.
Yeah, it blew my mind that like some folks would be commenting on our post that, oh, you guys got ripped off. And I'm sitting here thinking $35 a night is a ripoff? Like, we didn't have to pay for internet. We didn't have to pay for our air conditioning, which we did have to pay for in Playa del Carmen.
True.
So this one, we had no bills to pay for. It was just flat out that. So for people to say we got ripped off, it blew my mind.
Is it worth saving that couple $100 to stay outside of the city?
You know, we did feel very stranded, you know, like
it changed our whole dynamic, and
we didn't do nearly as much as we would have if we were closer to things.
No, in hindsight, we would have rather spend the money that we spent on Uber, which we'll get to in a second, and applied that towards staying closer to downtown. Our next category is airfare. We spent $180 on airplane tickets, and that was because we were able to save over $800 in airline miles. Now, you can get much better deals these days. Go on Google Flights. You probably can get deals for $300 round trip, depending on where you're coming from. But we did it a little funky in general.
That's the price of being spontaneous.
All in all, you can get better deals than what we ended up paying for, but out of pocket, $180, not too bad.
No.
Next, eating out. Our total cost was $367, which I think is really low for 5 weeks in Mexico, but that's primarily because we were living like locals and bought groceries, which you'll see the effect of that when we get to the grocery cost.
Didn't eat out very much, only a few times. And
Yeah.
honestly, the times that we did eat out, it wasn't even really that good.
No.
Except for the taco places, which were the cheapest.
That's a really great point. Our most expensive meal out of that $367 was a $75 meal the last night of our trip. On the beach at sunset. We each got one drink and a meal, and it came to $75, which I don't think it was worth it.
No, we paid for sunset on the beach.
That's what we paid for. But for the most part, all the rest of the meals that we paid for could range from $7 to $12 for tacos for the both of us,
and
drinks, and $25, I'd say, for the kind of mid or higher range if we were gonna get 2 drinks.
Like in San Pancho or something where we had a couple of meals, breakfast.
Yeah.
Yeah, $20-ish.
For 2 people with drinks and plenty of food, I still think that $367 is peanuts.
Yeah, I didn't think that was too bad at all.
No, so happy times on that one. Our next category is entertainment, where we spent $390 for our 5 weeks, which is really, really low because honestly, we didn't do too much.
No, we didn't do much at all, which was the point. I mean, we were trying to live like locals, and when you're local, you're not going out spending hundreds of dollars all the time doing all kinds of excursions. Now, we were there temporarily. It was our first time, so we had to do a couple of things. You know, we wanted to see Predator movie set. We wanted to ride some ATVs. Don't point at me. I'll get my Predator knife out. Don't make me.
Is that what the sound is?
It's something like that. You know, $390, it's not too bad.
ATV, and then we did a all-day boat island hopping / snorkel trip, which was kind of weird, but it was fun when all was said and done. And happy times, we got a couple of extra things like a sunset cruise to Los Arcos, which we didn't pay for. Thank you, Mike and Sarah.
Yeah, you guys are great, and I still owe you some pictures, and I will be getting them soon.
Yeah, so bottom line is we only paid for 2 excursions. Most of the things that we did were free. That goes to show that in Puerto Vallarta, there is so much that you can do without paying a dime.
Like that hike up to Mirador
de la Cruz. Yep.
Like that, you guys, I'm telling you, you gotta do it. It's so easy. What you wanna do is you eat a big meal, you have about 6 drinks per person, and then take this hike.
So you don't remember what the pain you go through walking up the stairs? Is that what the...
It was a brutal hike, but it was free, and it's something that you can do, and at the end, you get this amazing view.
It was beautiful.
Finding all these gems of free things to do
like
helped.
the Malecon.
The Malecon. I mean, we went there, I don't know, 6, 7 times.
We made a whole video just on the Malecon
fun.
because there's so much to do.
So many cool things. So you don't always need to spend a lot of money for entertainment.
No. Beach, there's so much to do. Beach time, the pier. We've shown you some of that in videos already, and we're going to be showing you some more in an upcoming video that's a complete tour of Puerto Vallarta. Back to this category, our cost was pretty low as a result of all the things we just described.
Yeah, not too bad.
Not too bad at all. Groceries. Our eating out cost was pretty low. That's because we spent most of our money on groceries at $702 for 5 weeks. And that ends up being $140 a week. And I don't know, it seems high to me. So we really broke down and looked at the numbers and said, what is it that makes it this high?
To me, it's not very high.
In the States, not in Mexico.
To me, that's not expensive at all when you look at what we actually
You know, I think what it goes to show is the cost of inflation. We're really feeling it in Mexico, right? Our lesson learned, if you were gonna try to reduce that grocery cost, would be instead of going to the larger stores.
Walmart, Chedraui. If we would have gone to the local carniceria, and for those of you who don't speak Spanish, that's just local butcher shop. If we would have gone there to get our meats, gone to the markets to get our produce and veggies, stuff like that, it would have been a lot cheaper.
We primarily went to Walmart because it was closest to us and it was a super Walmart and it had everything there.
And it's familiar.
It's familiar.
There's something about going to other countries and getting something that you're familiar with and that you know, brands, you know, everything. So there's a comfort level there.
So that cost didn't include any alcohol in the number, and we bought few imported items, which typically are double or triple of what a Mexican local brand would cost you. So when I really dig into the numbers, $140 a week, it still feels high to me for 2 people in Mexico.
Inflation, you know, and that's the thing is we were talking about why does this seem so high? And you know, when I break down all these cheap things that we're getting, it shouldn't feel high, but that's the thing. I think everyone in the world right now is feeling like their prices are high. But again, we wanted our comforts. I like my Sargento cheddar cheese and my salamis and pepperonis. So, you know, I'm also a fat kid. So I love my sweets and my Ben & Jerry's ice cream and my gummy bears and stuff like that.
So he's the reason our grocery bill is so high. That's what the bottom line is. Jeremy is the reason our grocery bill is so high. One thing though this is an important note about that cost, is up front, we always do a big grocery haul that includes some one-time purchase items like tin foil, hand soap, laundry detergent, those types of things where you won't have to buy them again, but you have to stock up your Airbnb. So that number is a little bit warped, but just a little bit with some of those non-recurring items that we had to stock the Airbnb.
And on that note, because this Airbnb was so cheap, we ended up having to buy another pan so we could have something to cook with.
That was the first.
So we bought a pan to leave there. And in my top ramen, I love red pepper flakes. And I love my spicy food. So we had to buy some spices and stuff that ended up staying there. I didn't go through a whole thing of red pepper flakes. So there's stuff like that you don't always need. In a lot of Airbnbs that we've gone to, we didn't have to buy red pepper flakes. We didn't have to buy pots and pans or trash bags or soap, because these people, the Airbnb owners, would really take care of you. This Airbnb where we stayed really could take some notes on how to.
I should put a link below just so you guys don't ever book this one. I may do that. I may put a link of a place that you shouldn't ever book. How about that? Is that a first?
I don't know. Whatever.
Moving on.
We'll move on. We digress.
The next category, miscellaneous, is 2 items. It was $165, and that included baggage fees on the way home, and it included a rental car to get us from the airport once we landed in the United States home, since we didn't park a car there and all of that.
And we live like 2 hours away from the closest airport. So.
So we were able to save bag fees, also $60 in bag fees when we were coming to Mexico through a credit card that we have. But on the way home, we booked a different way, blah, blah, and we had to pay the bag fees. So in theory, you could deduct these 2 expenses.
We're gonna try and get down to only having carry-on bags. That would save, you know, $60 every time we fly or something like that. So we'll see how we can do that.
Fingers crossed we can do it, guys. The next category we have is personal care, which really is medicines. It's only medicines, and we spent $416. So the initial kind of reaction to that is like, whoa,
that's a lot of money for
that
medicine.
Seems like a lot. So let's just give you a quick little breakdown. In Mexico, you can get medicines that in the States are extremely expensive. And so both Jeremy and his mom had a couple of meds that in the States, one of them was like over $350 in order to get it with insurance. And so we picked up a couple of those
for
medicines.
$50 a piece.
For $50 a piece for his mom.
Why we have to pay $350 here for that?
Yeah.
It blows my mind.
Yeah, but that's not this video.
Yeah.
So we're able to get certain ones in Mexico. And for those people that are like, oh my gosh, isn't that sketchy? No, in Mexico, the pharmacies are very legit. It's all legal, it's all regulated. It's not some like Ziploc bag of pills that you throw somewhere and is sketchy. It's all very normal.
And it's funny, like up until the pandemic time, I never really cared about the manufacturers of pills or medicines. And it's funny now that we got some of the pills that I had to take, I noticed that one of them's by Pfizer, one of them's by AstraZeneca. So even though it may feel like, oh, you're going to Mexico to get these generic medicines, they're by prestigious companies that we get anyways in the States. So.
Yeah, and you know, as long-term travelers, sometimes we're not able to get that month-long refill because we're somewhere for, say, 2 months. And so we use this opportunity in Mexico to stock up on some of those regular meds that Jeremy takes to help bridge the gap in between the refills.
So with that $400 minus my mom's about $100, so 300 something bucks for my meds, I got about a month and a half, 2 months worth of meds on multiple medications. So that's a big breath of fresh air.
If you take meds, it may be an opportunity to stock up, or if you don't, you can take this number off of the bottom line price and not include it in your total.
Just make sure that you have prescriptions for the same medicines, because when you go back into your country, they may need to see your prescription for things. I luckily, knock on wood, haven't had to run into any issues bringing my meds back, but do your due diligence and double check the rules.
Yeah, don't be shady, man. Next, transportation. We spent $219 in the 5 weeks that we were there, and that was primarily Uber. We took Uber most everywhere we went, and there was such comfort in being able to, on your phone, be able to put your starting and ending point with no communication needed if you didn't want with the driver.
Or if you don't speak Spanish.
So Uber, and the prices of Uber were better than taxis.
Like less than half.
Yeah, less than half. Couple of examples on transportation. One was Uber rides from home to downtown could range between $6 and $12, depending on the time of day. And another example would be the airport cost from our all-inclusive resort at Barcelo to the airport 45 minutes away. That was 350 pesos, which is about $17, plus 100 peso tip, that's $5.
We had some really good drivers. It was fun to talk to them.
Yeah.
Once you start talking to people and getting to know them, their personality,
I know.
you meet so many cool people.
I know.
I loved all them people. They were
Me
great.
too.
So Uber was awesome.
Yeah, although, you know, next time we would stay somewhere closer, remove
Less
those Uber costs and spend it towards someplace that was more central downtown. We would have loved to rent a car, but the cost of insurance, the actual cost of the daily rentals may seem super cheap when you're looking it up, but oftentimes you get to the rental car desk and they want to give you all of this mandatory insurance, which makes the cost astronomical.
Crazy.
We'll put here on the screen here an example of what it would cost. And so that's just not feasible for us. And again, as living like locals, we wanted to get around without that. In hindsight, we would do things differently next time. That brings us to the total. Drum roll, please. The total cost of all the categories that I just described was $4,500, just over $4,500, or $900 a week, which to me seems really high. There are definitely opportunities for savings, as we've mentioned before. We can take out Barcelo if you don't want to see what the all-inclusive experience is like. We can take out medicine costs if it's not your thing. Groceries, I don't know that we could have spent a bunch less. We could go to butchers and fruit stands.
You might be able to shave off some bucks there, but
there were some opportunities. I think what this gets back to is you can shape the experience that you want to have in Mexico, whether it's a super luxurious one or if you're really tight on a budget, there's opportunities to be able to do things so that you can save some money. We learned a lot from this trip from all of these things. And part of doing these videos is also for us to get an understanding and be accountable on how we're spending our money and where we can improve for the next trip that we go to.
Yeah. So all in all, I don't think it was very expensive. The cost of living there was actually pretty good.
Yeah.
We could have even done better.
We'd be really curious to hear what you think about the cost. I mean,
is that expensive to you guys?
Is that expensive to you with all the different caveats and things that we mentioned? What would you think 5 weeks in Mexico should cost, given what we've described already?
And if you have any better suggestions than what we've said, please leave us a comment and let us know what you think we should have done differently, because we will definitely take heed of that and hopefully apply it to our next trip.
Absolutely. I'm all about learning.
Yeah.
If you got any value at all from this video, please show us by giving us a like, clicking the thumbs up button for us, and if you're not already subscribed, please do so. We'd love to have you as part of our tribe.
Click that little red subscribe button right there.
We are going to start planning our next adventure, but in the meantime, go create your own adventure.
Peace.
Peace. So let's just call it a month. So What?
You never watched Sesame Street?
No.
You know the count?
I mean, I did.
One apple. Two. Two Puerto Vallarta videos.
Greetings. I am the Count.
You don't know the count?
It's been a long time.
Okay,
I've got some years. If we were going to be there, we're not. We have a ghost in our room.
It's a ghost in my tool shed. So what do we mean by it's pretty good? Living like locals. It means pro tip. Which brings me to this pro tip. Bring earplugs.
And so are ready?
She can't talk.
I don't know. All I'm trying to say is
but now, when you talk about groceries, that's a whole different thing. Is that where we are next?
No.
Oh, okay, sorry.
That's
we'll
okay.
Cut that out.
Okay.
Where are we at now?
Entertainment.
Okay.
That's official.
Well, just so we can line it up perfectly. Ready?
Yep.
3, 2, 1.